Hi everybody, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. Bit of a rant this one really, and a bit of a thought as well, I suppose. A little bit of a cocktail for you to get stuck into. Yes, it comes courtesy of Jamie Carragher, so Gary Neville's partner in crime. We've already had Neville pipping up saying he wants a transfer embargo placed on the Saudi Arabian clubs. Immediately does Gary Neville. The arrogance sometimes of Gary Neville that he's some kind of fucking football politician, mate, seriously. But I understand the concerns, they're worried about players leaving the Premier League and going to play in Saudi Arabia for bags of cash and everything else. But we've talked a little bit about this. I mean, a lot of the players that they're talking about taking to Saudi Arabia are players who've kind of completed football, so to speak. They've done everything. They've won Premier Leagues, Champions League titles. You look at likes of Ronaldo and Benzema. They've done everything, really, in terms of the game. They've been at clubs for 15 odd years and record goal scorers and everything else. And they've been offered more money than they've probably earned in the 15 years they've played to go play 2 years in a league that's trying to grow from nothing, really. So you can't really blame them. But it's weird with Carragher and Neville, because this isn't the first time that this has happened, but it's the first time really that they're throwing out sports washing as a bit of hyperbole, which is in Carragher's tweet. That the reason he's found it necessary to tweet is because the latest player being linked to Saudi Arabia is none other than Bernardo Silva from Manchester City. Now, it's kind of been rumoured for a while that Pep isn't that keen on Silva. He's there's loads of links to different clubs and everything else. Obviously, Pep's come out and said he loves him more than you believe and all that stuff with his cigar and everything else. Sorry, terrible Pep impression there, but I did my best. But, he comes out and says he loves him and everything else. And, behind the scenes, I just don't think he fits into what Pep Guardiola really wants to do long term. Gundogan is arguably been the MVP in the close for the treble winning season, and he's just been let go on a free transfer. So Guardiola doesn't hang around for sympathies. He thanks you for what you've done and he moves on, and that's kind of football, really. So Silva getting an offer from Saudi Arabia, again with more money than he's probably earned in the whole career so far. You can't really blame the guy for having his head turned a little bit. If that was you in your everyday job and somebody offered you 4 times the money to go and work for another company, arguably you would take it, wouldn't you? It's just football in reality seem to have two completely different ideas of ethos, really. But I think the reason that Neville and Carragher are getting pissed off in particular is because they're to quote Whistler and Blade, that's the reference that Ash will love in the comments, I'm sure. These are just pissed off. They're not top of the food chain. The Premier League has been doing this for years. Let's get it right. The blueprint for the Premier League was basically started the Premier League, killed the first division. All the big clubs went and started this huge Super League because they knew there was massive money to be made with TV rights and everything else. And then they nicked all the best players from the kind of lower league teams or the lower division teams and put them into the new Premier League, and that's just the way football was. So don't start getting pissy because somebody else is copying the blueprint that you laid out to show them the success route. That's exactly what Saudi Arabia is doing. And the Saudi Arabian state is blessed with endless amounts of money because of the resources at their fingertips, really, and what they offer the rest of the world in terms of their wealth. So you can't really be too pissy about it. But I don't remember hearing Neville or Carragher pipping up when their best buddies Beckham and Gerrard went over to the MLS for insane wages over there. I mean, Beckham arguably still had a lot to offer, really. He went alone to European clubs and he was brilliant, but Gerrard was kind of done. If Gerrard had stepped back and played centre half or something, he probably could have stayed at Liverpool for another 2 or 3 years. We didn't want to do that. But as a midfielder, he was done. Lampard went over there, David Villa went over there, Drogba went over there, Henry went over there. I didn't hear Henry's Carragher's mate. I don't hear him giving him any shit about the endless amounts of cash that he took in his pocket to go play in a bit of a Mickey Mouse league. Really, Messi's just gone over there to help the MLS on exorbitant wages. So they didn't throw the sports washing tag out for that. And the same with China, when Oscar went there and Paulinho and Tevez, and Hulk and guys like that. They didn't throw that out there about China being sports washing. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia, that word flies out of Neville's mouth, and there's definitely an agenda, I think, against the Saudi Arabian state and their want and their desire to grow their league. And I think you are going to see a lot of this from the mainstream media, certainly, the ones attached to Sky, because, let's get it right. They want the biggest and the best players to play in the Premier League so they can try to justify charging pensioners 130 quid a month to watch Sky Sports, 1, 2, 3 Premier fucking whatever you want to call it, where basically they just spend an hour and a half of a 2 hour game waxing lyrically about the top four and then talk about your team for all of 3 seconds. So that's what they want. They don't want good players leaving the Premier League and going to Saudi Arabian leagues because the Premier League becomes a less sexier product, really. But if you look through what the Premier League has done for years to, the Serie A teams, Christ, we're going to do it to AC Milan by taking Tonali off them. So it's happening right now. But I don't think Neville or Carragher will whinge about that. If Tonali starts, playing brilliantly in the Premier League, which hopefully he will do for Newcastle, they'll just start waxing lyrically about how great he is. We've been taking players from the French league, taking players from the German league, taking players from the Serie A league. We've been doing this for years. The Dutch league, how many cracking Dutch footballers has the Premier League stole away from the Eredivisie, which has caused that league to really drop down in standards outside of kind of Ajax and Feyenoord? Really, there's nobody really there offering anything on the world stage. So we're responsible for that in the Premier League. We've decimated their leagues, but you can't have your cake and eat it, Carragher. You can't start having a go at other leagues for doing the same thing the Premier League has been doing for years and years and years. Funnily enough, people have actually pulled him on this, and he's ended up in a bit of a Twitter spat. Now, that's not the first time I've used the word spat and the words Jamie Carragher in the same sentence. Sorry, Jamie, couldn't resist. Too easy, mate, too easy. But he's in a bit of a Twitter spat. It has ended quite amicably with a few people as well, to be fair. I did see him having a bit of a back and forth with the lad, and then the lad asked him, whether he liked hash browns on a full English, which was quite nice, and Carragher responded in kind. But this is going to happen. The Saudi Arabian League is the latest Frankenstein's monster, and it's going to be taking any player that it can do by offering them massive amounts of money, because the financial restraints that are governing the Premier League do not apply to the Saudi Arabian League. But going back to Chelsea, as I said in my previous video, Chelsea have got so many players on ridiculous contracts, and even on top of that, they raided Shakhtar Donetsk for Mudryk, who's been shit, by the way, but that's irrelevant. 89 million quid. Chelsea took Lukaku for 78 or 80 million quid from Inter Milan. Pogba to Manchester United, 90 million from Juventus. Anthony, 82 million from Ajax. We have been poaching these other leagues' players for years, man. It's rank hypocrisy coming out from Carragher here. And, I think he just needs to be a little bit mindful of the history of the Premier League and what's been going on. He did bite back a bit and said that he had a chat with Guillaume Balaguer about Real Madrid nicking players for years and everything else. But honestly, man, the Premier League is not so high on a pedestal that it can be so moralistically judgmental about the Saudi Arabian League doing exactly what they've been doing for fucking years. You laid the path, you laid the blueprint, they're copying you. If players want to go there, that's the players' prerogative. It really is. I put it on record, I said that I was happy Messi didn't go there, because I think if you had Ronaldo and Messi and Benzema in that league, then it would have become something that, maybe Premier Leagues would struggle to entice players over here. But, Newcastle are doing it right. We're signing young players, kind of coming through and I wouldn't say just starting their career, but just starting to blossom as a young player. So we're signing players at reasonable fees. The Premier League, again, are pricing people out of signing players. They're whacking ridiculous fees on their players, 100 million quid for average players. A player will cost you 30 million quid in the continent. It'll cost you 180 million or 150 million quid here. Daniel Levy holding Kane to ransom. The Premier League is fucked. Absolutely fucked. It's become such a big monster, it's eaten itself, and now there's a bigger shark in the water coming across, and they're shitting themselves. They really are. So there's going to be loads more of this crap coming out, I'm pretty sure, from the likes of Carragher and Neville and everything else. But if the footballing bodies try to put a stop to the Saudi Arabian League and the signing of players, there'll probably be a backlash from footballers as well. And we all know footballers have the power these days. It's all about player power. If they want to kick off, they want to boot off, all FIFA and UEFA think about is marketing. Is it Instagrammable? That fucking phrase that I hate. I'm going to go wash my mouth out after saying it, but that's the world we're living in now. They don't care about rules and regulations and financial restraints and fair play. They only care about marketing the product that is football. It's not a game to them anymore. It's a business. So they won't stop Saudi Arabia getting the players, because they'll, FIFA and UEFA will be putting on their games and hosting games there and everything else. They just awarded the World Cup to fucking Qatar not too long ago. That tells you where FIFA's mindset mindset is, and UEFA is just a yes man that follows FIFA's lead. So if Carragher never go think tagging them in a fucking tweet is going to do something, give your head a wobble, lads. It fucking well isn't. That's me done for today's rant. If this is the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe, come and join us. Apologies for being a sweaty mess. I have just come out of the gym. Like the video, help get it on YouTube, help it get to 4K. Me and Mark are dying to get to 4K for the start of the season. We're so close. Help us get there, guys. And we'll be back soon with another rant and thought of the day. Have a good day, whatever you're doing. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.